pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urgent business, a presentation regarding the reduction in the allocation to the school budget by $922,117.92 based on the changed maintenance of effort and a declining enrollment number, and discussion regarding reallocation of those funds in the fiscal year 15-16 budget. This doesn't require a motion, it's a presentation Pam's going to give us. I put it under urgent business. This came to our attention about a week and a half ago. I asked for it to be put at the top of the agenda, so those who are here for the public comment open forum, that is going to come a little bit later in the meeting. This is important. Pam and our finance director had brought this item to my attention. I met with them last Monday about it, and we made the decision to inform the public on what was going on. We're hoping to have a joint work session with the school committee about it. Pam will give a presentation on the details of it. Shortly after that meeting, I was in a car accident, so I was in a very bad car accident. My car was totaled. Thank you to everybody who reached out to me with emails and calls. I appreciate it. So I haven't done much follow-up on this, but Pam has, so she will give us that presentation. And we'll try to keep this conversation to half an hour because we have public hearings at 8 p.m. So Pam, if you could give us that presentation, thank you.
Okay, tonight we're here to talk about the maintenance of effort number, which is the number that changed our transfer, or would change our transfer to the school budget. The Rhode Island Department of Education, RIDE, has verified the possible reduction of money available to the school department from the town of Narragansett annual operating budget in the amount of $922,000. This number is the result of a reduction of 51 Narragansett students. Tonight, we are here to discuss how the town council would distribute this reduction in funds if you were to make it. You have options. You can do nothing with the money and leave it with the school budget, as it is. You can return the money to the taxpayer through a reduction in taxes. You can put the $1 million towards a pension, our pension, or OPEB. You can leave some money with the school and divide the rest between the town fund balance, capital items, pension, or tax reduction, any combination. Or you can consider, this is what I would recommend, consider placing the $1 million in the town fund balance to be available for future allocation. That way you will have time to meet with the school committee who wants to meet with us this week, later in the week, and you would be able, it would just remain in our fund budget until it was decided what would happen with it. I know that the superintendent of schools, Kathy Sapala, would like to speak.
Before that, Kathy, so Pam, just this number, because this number's not come to us before as a town council, so just kind of that history of that, how this is calculated in the statute. Do you want to share some of that?
I would like to put that in the capable hands of our finance director. She's got a much firmer grasp on it. Laura, would you come up, please? Laura Kenyon is our finance director, and she's been working directly with the school finance director, Karen Hagan.
And Karen, could you come forward as well? Thanks.
Actually, the maintenance of effort number was raised both by the finance committee and town council members during the budget hearings as to what the maintenance of effort number was. I received the maintenance of effort number from Karen after she was able to verify what that reduction in the budget was last week. Timeliness of it being with the operating budget, it just came late, just I guess due to verification.
Karen, could you share the calculation with us as well so the whole council has the exact calculation?
Okay. Basically, it's statutory. It's a calculation on the enrollment decline from fiscal 13 to fiscal 14. That's a number of a decline of 51 students, and it was multiplied by $18,000 to come up with the $922,000, which I verified with RIDE. At first, I thought it was a different calculation based on a different statute, but now I've had the verification. It came in about a week ago, so we all know that this is the number that you can reduce your appropriation based on the statute.
All right, thank you.
Karen? Can
Pam,
I
do-
ask one question?
Go ahead, Ray. Yeah.
Karen, the 51 students, is that from this past year alone?
No, it's the average daily membership from fiscal 14, fiscal 13 minus, shouldn't say that. Fiscal 14 was 1,366 students. Fiscal 13 was 1,417 students. So the difference is the 51 students. So it's based on
Thank you.
2 years prior.
2 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Karen. So Pam, you've made a recommendation. You have several different paths you think there are forward for us, basically one of which is to leave it alone. I wanted to call this to everyone's attention, and that's why I put it under urgent business, so people knew that this was out there. I had not been calculated since I'd been on the council, so I just felt it was imperative to let everybody in the community know about it. And then Pam, you said you could leave it alone, return it to the taxpayer, or do some combination
Do any
thereof.
combination. There's several places the town has been, in the past, since I've been here, this is my third budget. We have cut way, way back on capital. We all know the pension problems. We all know that we have a very good school system. We all want to see that school system remain a very, very good school system. They'll have arguments for that. I don't. They'll have good, solid arguments. The town fund balance is very important to us because it will eventually, if it remains there, it would reduce the taxes next year. Now, the budgets are all made up. The budget for the school, the budget for the town. Basically, we were ready to have the ordinance tonight. And we had to take the ordinance off because we received this information, and it's $1 million. So it is possible for you to do any combination of things. Now, this finance director and I have talked to all of you, at least once, if not more than once. And there are many, many ideas among you. And I think you've hashed them all out. Really, you've thought it through. We've talked to the superintendent and the finance director for the school as early as this morning. So we know how everybody feels. It's a difficult situation. But what my suggestion is at this point is wait until after you've had your meeting with the school department, and we don't make the transfer. We leave it in fund balance for future allocation.
So,
That way it's available, whatever happens.
so can we just hear a little bit? I mean, I'm familiar with the maintenance of effort fund, but can we hear a little bit about that from Kathy, just as far as, because it's always been a part of the school budget, maybe some people aren't familiar with it, what the purpose is, and I know we're going to have a workshop probably this week, so I think it's important even for the public to better understand. It wasn't like a windfall of $922 that just came from the sky, but that there's a formula, and it was embedded in the budget. So I think it's important that we hear from her.
Kathy?
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Pam, for your comments about it is a good school department.
Yes, it is.
And it's a good town, and we need to work together. So I think many of the questions were around the statute. Matt, we had that conversation right in the town manager's office the other day. So I was able to secure the services of our Deputy Commissioner of Education this evening. So David Abbott is here, and he is former legal counsel for the department and certainly knows these statutes in and out. And I distinctly recall Harris Chorney, and I even looked back in my date book. On March 9th, this is when this conversation first came up. So I want everyone to understand this has not been brewing for a long time, and we withheld information. Harris turned during a finance committee meeting and said, "Kathy, what do you know about maintenance of effort?" And I smiled and I said, "Not a lot, other than I can tell you this. We've appreciated the maintenance of effort, the level funding that this town has provided for our schools, and we will find out all of that information for you." So when you heard Karen say, at first she thought it was a figure, she used one statute, came up with a figure, and shared that with Laura. And then she looked deeper into it. And it wasn't until very late in April, the 28th of April, that we got our figure from RIDE. That's when we brought all that information forward, and that's where we are today. So I know that the questions relative to what does the statute mean and what is its purpose in Rhode Island law, I think that's very important to understand. Secondly, if you did choose to look at the full $992,000, what does that mean at RIDE? Okay, what would have to happen? And then thirdly, what do cities and towns who struggle with this talk about? We're a very different city or town than Woonsocket, or than North Smithfield, or than Cumberland, or we're quite different. And so those contexts and those conversations have to happen. And I thought that David could perhaps provide some of that information to you tonight. So thank you for letting him speak. Commissioner Abbott?
Thank you, Kathy. I think probably the place to start is what is the purpose of the whole statutory scheme of financing education in Rhode Island, because it's fairly unique. And the Rhode Island Supreme Court back in 1994 held that financing public education is a local responsibility. And that's really important because the lawsuit was filed to try to compel an increase in state aid. And what the Rhode Island Supreme Court said is that the state constitution does not compel a level of state funding, and that the statutory scheme, which is created by the Assembly, makes that a local responsibility. And this whole set of laws, and it's not just the maintenance of effort law, that's kind of nestled into a larger package. And so if you start with the precept that it's a local responsibility, how do you know if you're funding enough? And that responsibility is given to the then Board of Regents, what's now the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education, and they have a set of regulations called the Basic Education Program. And those regulations are really commonly misunderstood, but they're a gauge by which the state measures the adequacy of funding. And they're typically used in the courts when a school committee basically brings suit against the municipal side because there's an allegation that they're underfunded. And when Kathy says this is a little different than a lot of those communities that she rattled off, no one knows that better than I do because I get involved in all of these disputes. So I don't think this is really a question about the overall adequacy of funding. And you know, the first thing I heard when I came in was the chair saying that there's going to be a conversation between the municipal side and the school district side. And that's really what I came to say, is that in my experience, that is the most important thing to happen, because the 922,000 is an accurate number. It's just a calculation. And the conversation that really we would urge you to have is about what won't get purchased this year, if anything, but what does that 922,000 represent, as opposed to, is the number accurate? Okay, let's move on. And so, you know, I know this is kind of a unique situation. Things have been in a state of flux in Narragansett, maybe more than in some communities. Your population has gone down, but your rate of poverty has gone way up. The poverty rates of students in seats. And that's had an impact on the funding formula, because the funding formula is both a measure of your ability to raise money as well as the needs of the students in seats. And so I think that in part has, you've been seeing some movement within the school district as they've reacted to that. And so I just, you know, I don't want to get into the specifics or have the conversation here, but I would urge there to be a continuing conversation. You know, there's no doubt that the law 16723 allows you to change the calculation from a total amount. We keep talking about maintenance of effort. I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means. What that means is that in first instance, a community, once it commits to a level of funding, is not allowed to back away from that level of funding in the ensuing year. You have to put at least as much money as you put in the year before. However, the law also allows some flexibility, because if your student population count goes down, it allows you to change the calculation from a simple sum to an amount that you're paying per pupil, which makes a lot of sense. If you lose 100 kids, your current service level is going to be somewhere in between what you spent last year and whatever savings you were able to recoup. And this is why we really urge there to be this conversation, because unfortunately, when you lose kids, you don't lose kids in bunches that the budget recognizes. You could lose 50 kids and not lose any teachers. It just depends on the distribution of that student population. And because over 85% of your costs are in personnel, you've got to dig into the numbers a little bit deeper and see where the savings can really occur and make decisions based on programmatic impact rather than just a numbers calculation, in our view.
David, I just want to ask a question, and I agree, a conversation between the school committee and the town council is imperative, but is it common practice, with this amount of money from cities and towns across the state to wipe it away, or is it built so if it decreases or increases, that money is available, so it's sort of a fund that is embedded in that particular budget? Is that how it works? So, we don't want to decimate it, right? We don't want to wipe it away, because then it's going to impact this upcoming budget, correct?
It will, and what I would say is there's no typical way, but I would say there are commonalities to the conversation. Because your circumstances are a little different, from what I understand, there's at least some fund balance on each side of the equation. That almost never happens. And so usually the conversation is really about, let's look forward a year, 2 years, 3 years, because you also have the protection of being able to invest in non-recurring expenses that the school district may be able to take advantage of, but don't impact your maintenance of effort. So if the city or the town spends money on usually a capital investment, that doesn't necessarily get reflected in the overall budget increase. And so once you start having the conversation, in my experience, you'll start having longer-term conversations about the budget and how the town and the school district can work together to have a little bit more of a long-term plan around the budget, and we'd be happy to help with that. But it's a different conversation in every community, honestly.
Thanks.
And the maintenance effort numbers, to simplify, basically, if enrollment goes down, the maintenance effort number is going to usually mean the town is going to need to give less to the school side. If the enrollment goes up, maintenance of effort number is going to say you need to give more to maintain the effort. Generally, it's fair to say.
Generally speaking, it really depends on what savings the school district is able to recoup as a result of the decrease in population. Not every situation is the same. For instance, when we get communities that lose a lot of kids to charter schools, they tend to lose a lot in the same grade because the school is opening, and they can usually cut a couple teachers, and that's a big part of the nut. On the other hand, if you just lose a few kids at every grade level, you might not actually reduce your overall cost, but your cost per kid will go up. So that's the part of that needs to be a two-way conversation of, where can we achieve savings? Let's keep putting those in that ledger line. And so I have no idea, to just make it up. I don't, maybe $922,000 can be taken away, legally obviously can be, without any impact on the education of any kid in Narragansett. I doubt that very much, but that could be. It could be that, it's half of that can be taken out without having an adverse impact. You just don't know until you actually start to have that conversation of what will get cut.
I just had one quick question. It's not only based on, the calculation isn't based on just loss of students, but also the demographics of the community, correct? Poverty, employment, the whole.
Absolutely.
Is that the matrix of it?
It is, and we in Rhode Island have a fairly simple funding formula. We only use one measure, and it's as close as we can get to density of poverty, because it's not, one poor student is not necessarily harder to educate than a middle-class student, but a cluster of poor students is significantly higher risk and more expensive to educate than the isolated student. So we use that as a measure of how much more money, and it basically, in our measure, it adds 40% if that student is
So if you have a
below
higher
poverty.
poverty rate, right, you'll have more funding. Well,
Yes,
okay.
from the state. It's a 40%
Right.
multiplier by student.
Okay, go ahead.
You had mentioned that every circumstance, every district is different. And in Narragansett, we hope that we'll have an influx of students next year. Is the multiplier the same if we increase in students, or is there not? Or is that just a judgment call?
No, it's a formula.
And is it-
Everything, I mean, the funding formula really is a formula.
Sure.
So that 40% multiplier is applied to every student in your census count who is free or reduced price lunch eligible.
Okay. And so if the multiplier is 18,000, as someone said earlier, times the 51 students, and it comes to roughly 922,000, if we gain 10 students next year, is that multiplied by $18,000?
So you're on the right track conceptually, but you don't actually start with the communities per pupil. You start with the average instructional cost for the
Okay.
state. And so right now, it's just about 8,900, which is the average cost for educating a non-complicated, non-poverty student, just the instructional costs that are expended in the classroom, so things like fuel, transportation,
Oh, okay.
retiree health benefits are taken out of that.
Yeah.
So the number is done on a statewide calculation and then applied to your student population.
It's odd that they don't do it both ways the same, isn't it?
Well, again,
I mean, it seems odd to me that they don't apply both ways, because using $18,000 in one sense, and because it's a per-student cost of the particular town, using $8,900 in the other direction, it seems to be something less than it should, or maybe the 18,000 is something more than it should. I just need to understand it better, I guess.
I think that's a really good part of the conversation,
Yeah.
and, you know, we're very happy to supply numbers statewide. I mean, we routinely have all of this broken down. It's all actually online on our website. You can look at the per pupil cost of any
Right.
district broken down by demographics. It's very transparent.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you for that presentation.
I just had one
Go
more
ahead.
quick question. Now, when you pay for charter schools, that's 18,000? Or it depends on the town, per town?
That's a really good question. And yes, it depends on the town.
Yeah.
And so the state share that you would get for that student, you
Right.
never see. Once that student is enrolled in a charter school, that state money goes directly to that school. And your local share for the rest of the cost of that student follows that student to the charter school.
That
Yes.
doesn't surprise me.
And that's not deducted from our total per pupil cost when it goes?
You,
Yeah, I got you
Walking
now.
off-
it is. Your
Walking off of the
student,
store there.
you can't count the student twice. For a long time, that's exactly what happened, actually. When, in the early days of charter schools, when the student went to the charter school, you didn't lose your state aid for that child. That child was paid out of an additional allotment from the state, and you were not required to match that with your local amount of funding. That all changed with the funding formula.
Very good. All righty, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Okay, so we only have a brief period of time before our public hearings on this. Does anybody want to speak on this topic in the minutes that we have going forward? Kathy?
So I would like to be able to make a few comments, but so would some members of the school committee. So how might this work?
Well, we don't, at 8 o'clock, Dawson, I have
know,
to do
you're
the public
having a-
hearings, correct? So we can continue it after that. but if members of the public are here, want to talk on it, they're going to have to wait till after the public hearings, because those are advertised in the paper.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I totally
so-
understand that. I'm just asking if we'd be able to come back at 9 o'clock or whatever time we
Right.
finish the public hearings. Sure. So I would feel very fine holding my comments until then. As I'm looking at the clock at 7:58, it's up to you. Move to your public hearing.
What I actually was going to ask the council, if someone could move agenda item number 14, which is a motion to schedule the work session with the school committee, so we can inform everybody here who might want to come to that of the night that that's going to be, because obviously that will be, we'll want to hear from the public at that point as well, because it's a variable how long these public
I'll move
hearings
that
go.
motion.
I'll
So-
second.
All right, so this is a motion to move item number 14 to speak on it now. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. So we have a motion to schedule a work session with the school committee.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I thought you just made it. Second.
we moved
Excuse me.
We
Yeah.
moved it,
No,
now
no,
we're
no,
doing
I'm
it.
sorry.
Second?
Second,
All right. The date that we are looking at, I know there's some school committee members here, we're looking at Thursday. Is that agreeable to, I spoke with the school committee chair today, and she mentioned Thursday would work for her as well.
Perhaps, not all members may be able to attend, but the school committee chair will attend, Guy DeWarner will definitely attend, Karen and I can be there. And I would love the opportunity at that, so.
Would we have a quorum of the school committee available?
We will have three, one way or another. We'll have to see if Mr. Rinaldi or Mr. White could attend on
Okay.
Thursday night.
What about the council?
I happen to know Mr. Rinaldi.
Check with
and
the wife, but I'll
He
be there.
can't,
He
he's
is-
working
he
that
is
night.
unable
to come.
He's working that night.
I do have a commitment. What time are we talking about?
We can
Is there a
schedule it
reason
at
it
any
has to
time.
be this week?
That one sounds like an all-nighter.
We kind of
It's
has
kinda-
to be, because we have, the reason we want to do this sooner rather than later is we have 2 readings of the budget ordinance, so if we're making any changes to this, to our budget, we have to read that twice, and we want people to be able to digest it.
No, I understand. And Monday's Memorial Day.
Monday's Memorial Day. If we did it the
would be a
same night
lot
as
easier to
scheduling
do
a
it
special
Tuesday.
council meeting, right, but then we won't have, Pam, what's the problem with doing it? If we do it next Tuesday, go ahead, Ann.
Matt, Thursday, we have municipal court in this room at 6 o'clock. We have a zoning board meeting in the large boardroom at 6 o'clock. And we have land trust in the small boardroom at 5:30.
5:30.
How about,
Thursday.
My best day is Tuesday of next week, but I'm.
Tuesday of
I
next
mean,
week.
how about
that's-
Saturday
that's my-
morning?
No.
I don't have a problem with that either.
If we do it Tuesday, it makes having a special council meeting kind of a moot point, right, Laura? I mean, if we make any changes, because part of the reason we want to, we can do it Tuesday, I think, then we wouldn't schedule a special council meeting that night.
Let's do an up and down vote.
We can make any revisions to the ordinance that night. I basically have it done to this point. I don't expect there be many line items that need to be changed. So I would guess if we did it Tuesday night, we could make the changes to the ordinance and then have it approved that night as well.
I'd really appreciate it. I mean,
You'd prefer Tuesday?
I would, if you don't mind.
Tuesday.
What about school committee members?
No, I'm not skiing anymore, but honey-do list.
6:30? Tuesday at 6 or 6:30? Can you do 6?
Yeah, I can do 6.
Are you sure?
I can do 6.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Okay, so this will be a time, 6 PM, Tuesday,
26th?
the 26th. Here, any conflicts, Ann, that night? All right, well, they'll have to move. This is more important. All right, all in favor of having this work session with the school committee joint at 6 PM on May 26th?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved, 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, so next we have our public hearings. We have our public hearings.
I think we're in agreement.
If our stenographer can come forward. These are 8 o'clock public hearings that are scheduled at that time. we can actually approve our minutes as she's setting up. We will look at approval of our March 16th, 2015 work session meeting minutes.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Approval of March 23rd, 2015 work session meeting minutes.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Approval of April 20th, 2015 executive session meeting minutes.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Pam, do you have any state project updates?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay, so we have no state project updates. So we'll take a brief 5-minute recess as we get prepared for the public hearings.
Take 5.
Yeah, I mean,
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
yeah, well, this is gonna be a lot, right? I think it's gonna be.
This is what I could all. I know. Yeah. You gonna go and get the hats during the break?
What I don't get is, we're getting $11,000, $14,000, James Street. There's money on there's tax money all on the table. Yeah, but when it comes time for us to pay, we're paying 18 and we're only paying 11. So the state's getting the difference. The state gets it. Rhode Island. Nothing's a conflict.
So what the ethics committee, what is the question? Is it a conflict because his son is on the school board and he's on the council?
And my wife is a teacher. But the ethics commission,
That is the,
gave me a ruling.
Welcome me if you're good, I always say. Right?
All right, thank you for indulging us with the 5-minute break. Thank you for your patience. First, we have a public hearing on a petition from the Bike Stop Cafe, 148 Boone Street, Narragansett, Rhode Island, to expand alcoholic beverage service with additional seating and to expand the size of the bar and seating at the bar. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Will the applicant please come forward? Dawson, thanks.
Okay.
I do.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I
Could
hate
you
public speaking.
Could you
One of my-
state your
So
name
do
for
I.
the record, please?
Casey Montanari. Do you need me to spell it?
Go ahead.
Montanari.
And you're here from the Bike Stop Cafe.
I
We're
am.
going to share what you're looking to do.
I'm looking to, what we're trying to do is take what was formerly Steve Babcock's karate studio, put in another wood-fired oven, and build another small bar area.
Okay. Does anybody on the council wish to speak on this, or members of the public?
No, I just had a
testify.
question. Expansion of the bar, it was 9 seats, and how many additional seats did you say?
I don't have the plans in front of me. I want to say.
12.
Was it 12?
I'm seeing 12 in
Okay.
front of me.
Yeah, I was going to say 15, but it's not significant. It's a small, like, L bar.
Yes. So it's 12 in total, or you want to
The
add
sorry,
actual
12?
no.
seating
Excuse me.
of the restaurant?
It's not 12.
That's the other side, it's
yeah.
15.
It's, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so-
that's what I thought it was 15.
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So it's 15 additional seats? at the
Yes,
bar.
at a bar area, yep.
I did a site visit a couple weeks ago, and
Yep.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Yeah, they told me somebody stopped by.
Yeah, I was also poking around in there.
I didn't get there, but I'm in favor of it. It's a great place. I
Sure.
don't mind the expansion at all.
Thank you.
I like your pizza.
Thanks.
See how easy we make this?
It's funny, because I just was talking to somebody else about it. We've had so many people ask if we're going to do the full liquor license, and it's just not something I'm interested in. I like what we're doing, and,
Right.
you know, I've been, from the beginning, we don't want to be that place that opened where everybody was like, we had a really nice neighborhood till they came around, you know, so we're going to just try to stick with it.
Good.
Good luck with it.
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Any other people want to testify in the public hearing? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 5-0. And is there a motion regarding approval of this
I make a
project?
motion to approve the application with zoning board conditions attached.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved 5-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Good luck.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck.
Next public hearing, a public hearing on a petition for transfer from NRI Ventures doing business as Perry's Neighborhood Bar and Grill, 140 Point Judith Road, Unit 4A, Plat P, Lot 289, to the Breakers Pub LLC, President Kevin Williams, 140 Point Judith Road, Unit 4A, Plat P, Lot 289.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Packer?
Recuse.
Dawson?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Donald Packer. I'm an attorney
And Mr. Wilkins
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
just recused on that motion. Just wanted to-
Kevin Williams.
Go ahead, Donnie.
For the record, my name is Donald Packer. I'm an attorney in South Kingstown. I'm representing Mr. Williams. I previously represented Michael O'Connor and NRA Ventures on this particular premises. He has secured Mr. Williams to open up a new restaurant and a new venture in the premises, which was last previously Perry's. Mr. Williams, where do you reside?
I reside in Metuxet, Rhode Island, Narragansett. I've been in Narragansett for the past 30 years.
And you're going to be the owner and the manager of the new business?
Yes, I am.
And what is your past business experience?
I have been in the military for the past 8.5 years, managing younger airmen and leading them up. I've also been assistant manager at two other businesses before that for, I'd say, about 6 years total.
Those are food service businesses?
Yes,
And you're being discharged out of the National Guard, so you're looking for a business opportunity?
yes, sir.
And you hired an assistant manager with experience in liquor service, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what's his name?
Greg Buchanan. Buchanan, Buchanan.
And what type of business are you proposing for the unit?
I am proposing to open a billiards establishment with a pub.
And you're going to serve food and liquor, obviously?
Yes, sir.
And with your application, you presented a proposed menu?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And what type of changes are you making to the interior of Perry's?
The kitchen will be staying exactly the same as it is now. I will be only changing the seating area and bar area to make it a little bit more open and a little bit more user-friendly to get in and out of the bar. Right now, currently, the bar is set forth in the middle of the establishment, and I want to set it off to the side, which is on this floor plan here, which will seat 20 to 25 people.
And you submitted a floor plan with the application?
Yes, sir.
Is that a copy of it?
Yes, sir.
And it proposes to have 5 billiard tables. Presently, there's 2 on the premises, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the next item on the agenda is the license for your billiards tables and your jukebox, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can I mark the site plan as an exhibit, please?
Can I just ask you something on the floor map? Is that a cigar box? What's that?
Oh, that is, what happened was, before Perry's was, that, the original floor plan for Perry's was a little bit wider. It was about 18 feet wide. But Mike took that out and put in a cigar box and divided the building up.
That's going away, though, right?
The
Yeah.
cigar box is not my property. I was just showing.
Okay, because it's on the map, so.
Right.
But it's not part of the plan.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
This sounds good. How many people are you gonna employ?
I am looking to hire 3 bartenders, about 3 waitresses or waiters, 3 cooks, and an assistant manager.
Beautiful, 10 people. I'm on board. I think we're good to go.
Is there any other kind of highlights that you want to share, Don?
I just want to point out that the current liquor license has an entertainment license, and Kevin is proposing to have the option of some live entertainment every other week, which he'd like to kind of point out to the council as we move forward on this?
Yes, on the entertainment part, it is to be competitive with the environment that is already established in that neighborhood, which Marina Grill has live entertainment weekly, Ponchos, Satura Joe's, they all have that live entertainment. I'm not going to be, per se, every week. I was doing it every other week, and what I would do is, on the floor plan, right now, there's not room for that. But we have in place already that we have these covers that go over the pool tables, and we will be moving those pool tables out of the way and only having 2 pool tables open during live entertainment.
Okay, so Donald, we jumped right to I just wanted to go through the current conditions. Can we just say what they are for the place, just so that the public can hear what the current conditions are for the establishment?
I'd be happy to go through them, Susan.
Yeah, just
Number
'cause-
one is no outside service. Right now, there's no outside seating, so that's fine. Number 2 is alcohol can only be served at the tables in the dining room area with food by waiters and waitresses. And that's fine, because we're going to have tables in the area, and they will have waitresses. Number 3 is alcohol can be served in the bar, excuse me, the bar area, at the bar and at tables without food. Meals can be served at the bar and at tables within the bar area. That's fine. Full-service menu and daily dinner specials would be offered while open. We would request that be deleted because, as you can see, it's not a full-service menu, and we don't propose generally to have daily dinner specials. Although we would propose to have specials, we don't want to commit to daily dinner specials because it's not really a full-service restaurant as such. Bar seating can be no larger than the previous bar. Are we expanding the bar?
No.
And that's fine. And entertainment is allowed during the hours of operation and can include live music and disc jockeys.
And what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operation are going to be contingent upon business. For the most part, we're setting forth right now to stay open from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m., 7 days a week. And based on business, it might be closed earlier Saturday, not Saturday.
Not a good day.
Sorry, a little nervous. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
So you're looking for approval with the transfer and removal of item number 4, condition number 4? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the only change as far as the entertainment. You said you removed the tables, and tell us just a little bit about the music. I know the surrounding facilities have it, so I just,
We would be doing something similar to what they are currently doing, just less frequently, being that it is a billiards hall, and I don't want to take away from that. So, but I do like the idea of having live entertainment every other week, bringing in jazz, 3 to 4 band groups, and light rock.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public who'd like to testify regarding this application?
Thanks.
Council members, any thoughts? All right.
Good.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 4-0.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following conditions that we just went over.
Right, and basically on the
Taking
blue
out number
sheet-
4.
Right, taking out number 4, which is the
Second.
first full-service menu and daily dinner special would be offered.
And the time's not in there. I don't know if we should 1-to-1. Is that what, as far as the music and time, just so that, I don't know if they put those in, but that was something that you had just spoken to. So I'd like to make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Recuse.
Motion approved 4-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations, good luck.
Good luck.
I'm going to stop in.
Good luck. Best of luck.
A motion to approve a miscellaneous license. Don, is this also yours?
Yeah. A motion to approve a miscellaneous license application for Kevin Williams doing business as the Breakers Pub, 140 Point Judith Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island, for a jukebox license and billiards pool tables. Licenses subject to state and local regulations.
Move the motion.
Second.
We were wondering where you're
That's
going.
to open to public.
Oh, sorry.
Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll open it.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Recuse.
Motion approved 4-0. And swearing in, that's a different public hearing. Oh, it's not? Oh, just to approve. I'm sorry. My bad.
Jukeboxes, right?
Just the jukeboxes. So this is a little different from the transfer of the license. You're asking under the town's ordinances for relief for the pool tables, correct?
There's 2 pool tables approved now. We're going to 5, and we need a jukebox license. So we kind of described all that earlier, so. that's
Gotcha.
why I kinda-
Business must be good. That was pretty quick.
Right here in River City, a pool hall. Approval of, is there a motion to approve the miscellaneous licenses?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Recuse.
Motion approved 4-0. Thank you. Now you can go. Good luck, thanks. All right, this is a public hearing for amendments to text revisions to Historic Districts, Section 5.7 of the zoning ordinance. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Dawson, if you want to swear in Keith.
Good evening, Keith Lescovo, Chair of the Narragansett Historic District Commission. I'm here before the council to request an amendment to Chapter 731, subsection C, paragraph 1 of Section 5.7, for administrative approvals and review of historic properties and their building permits. Essentially, we need for a good preservation of historic architecture, we need the resources, which obviously we have in Narragansett, and the desire to preserve those resources, and a system to make an effective preservation of those resources. For the last 4 years, the Historic District Commission has been reviewing projects. A year prior to that, we spent a year with consultants on a weekly basis, training, designing our system, coming up with our guidelines to make a very standard and a program that applicants could follow and be very user-friendly. In these past 5 years, the town of Narragansett has come up with a very good historic district commission. I've worked with other commissions throughout the state over the last 35 years, and without elaborating on their shortfalls, I can say we have a very top-notch system here in Narragansett. After these 4 years, there's been a great, learning curve that's been accomplished with staff, administration, commission members. We have very top-notch people on our commission. We have presently and in the past have had homeowners, historic homeowners, lawyers, architectural architects specializing in historic properties, landscape architects. So all of these resources come to the table in our commission. We've set up various programs. We have a resource guide on our website where people can call in, get information on local tradesmen, orders of operation, cost, troubleshoot problems that they have with their properties. And we make site visits. We go out and we make these resources available to the community. And we've had a great response with that. We have a tip line that we put in the paper once a month with seasonal problems that people deal with. We have pre-applications where people can come in and just discuss what they want to do before they go to a public hearing. So in any case, over the last 4 years, we've had about 30 public hearings to approve major projects. We've had 28 administrative approvals where staff of the community development approves minor projects. So what we're looking to do now as a result of all of the education and familiarity and the process we've created, with all of that accomplished, we're looking to streamline the process even more. Right now, if someone comes in for a public application, there are certain things we hold sacred with historic properties, or things that you need to focus on to preserve the flavor or the character of that property, such as entrances, windows, roof pitches, siding, trim details. But over these years, we've learned that some of the things have become repetitious, and so we've come up with, I think, a more streamlined way to get someone in and out a lot quicker. And you know, we have the resources and the desire to preserve those resources, but we have to be user-friendly. Otherwise, applicants are going to become frustrated, or the properties are not going to be preserved properly. So, to that end, what we'd like to do is amend this ordinance so that when someone comes in with something minor that is not going to affect the appearance of the property, or an in-kind repair, they want to match the siding they have. They just want to put new siding on. They want to put a new roof on. They don't want to change the pitch. They just want to put new shingles. They want to do new windows, and they want to make them 2/1 or 6/6 or whatever the existing are. They want to do that. And presently, someone has to come in. They have to go through a 4 to 6 week process before they can, depending on the timing, before they can get their building permit. So that's definitely necessary if someone wants to demolish a property, wants to put a large addition on, wants to do something very substantial, then, hey, we need to get together and talk about that. That makes sense. But for in-kind work and minor repairs, we really need to streamline that. So if this is passed, essentially what will happen is if someone comes in, it will take staff about 15 to 30 minutes to review it. And within 24 hours, applicant is down at building inspection with the permit, rather than a 4 to 6 week process. So we're just looking to streamline that and make it more practical for the community. Any questions?
Good.
No,
Okay. Could you explain the second part, section 2?
The second part?
Is that new also? I see it underlined.
Well, essentially, besides the checklist of what the staff can approve administratively, we have, there's kind of a catch-all at the beginning and at the end of this amendment. Obviously, roof repairs, siding, gutter, anything that applicant wants to match that's already there can be approved administratively. But in addition to that, if the community development director or his representatives, after consulting with me, feels that there's something that really might not be on the checklist, but is not a problem with the property and changing the property, then it's not limited to exactly what's on the list, but they have that flexibility to apply some common sense and go forward with that. And so that's basically what it entails.
It sounds like it's long overdue.
Keith,
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's great, but I just had one quick question.
Yeah.
Is the community Mike DeLuca, is he the one that does the administrative approvals? Is it one person that would
Well, you
go
know,
through
Mike
that?
has his staff, and certainly Bruce has done great work on the maps, and Denise is kind of the clerk of the works. She gets all the paperwork done, so it's really a team effort, I think.
So if somebody submits it, it doesn't just go to one person, it goes to that small team of people, and they make a decision if it could
Depend on which
fast track
aspect
it.
needs to be dealt with. And really, the key difference is, with the public hearings, really, staff has to analyze it anyway, and they have to come in. So it just adds layers to something that, you know, at this point, at the beginning, you know, there was a lot of things administratively that I wasn't aware of, that Mike has shared and influenced me with. And then there's a lot of nuts and bolts stuff that I think I've transferred to Mike as far as, what's important with the physical nuts and bolts of a property that keep its character. And so over time, I think we've both evolved. And so at this point, I think it is, it has been in the works for a while.
Right.
And, obviously with ordinances and town decisions, proper channels have to be taken, we have to be sure, we have to be safe. And so there is a time process here, but definitely ready.
This sounds like smart government to me, and I'm on board.
You had me at good evening, basically.
Okay.
But I remember when we passed this Historic District ordinance and we established the Historic District Commission, one of the underlying premises of that was to make it as user-friendly as possible and as helpful to the community, especially those people in those districts, as we possibly can. And looking down the road even then, we saw something like this was going to happen, obviously. It's going to mature into that. And I'm very glad you've finally come to that point where you've taken the wrinkles out and have done it, and thank you very much. And also, thanks for all the hard work you've done, because you can see the fruits of your labors now in the district, in actual structural repairs and actual preservation projects. And I think it's just great.
Well, not only have we had the 30 public applications and about 30 administrative approvals, but we've also done about another maybe 35 pre-applications where people come in just to talk about their projects. And then in addition to that, with our, what we call our HDC, our House Doctor Consultant.
I was going to ask you to give a little plug for 30 seconds you got in that.
We actually go out to properties and we talk with people, and I mean, there's people in this room where we've gone to their houses and, they have a crack in the foundation. What's causing that? They have a leak. Is it plumbing? Is it roof related? Is it siding related? Different things, problems to solve. And we go out into the community, and that's why this kind of became necessary, because you'd go out to property, somebody says, hey, I want to put new windows in, and I want them to, these are the windows. They have the windows. They're the same as the old windows. I want to put them in. And you have to say, well, look, I know you have the right intentions, but we have to go through this process. So now we can avoid that, and someone can.
Good.
It's going to be like a drive-through. In 24 hours, with a half-hour review, next day they get their permit.
Right.
And it just makes the whole thing a lot easier to digest.
Excellent.
So in terms of the hearing, thank you, and thank you for your passion for the Historic District Commission, Keith. Thank you. In terms procedurally, we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll have 2 readings of the ordinance. So we'll bring the draft of the ordinance in case there's tweaking of the language, but generally the concept is we see what people's thoughts are on this particular ordinance, and then we'll put 2 readings on. Is that correct? Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak to this item? All right. Then we will take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. And so there will be no action at this time. Again, we'll be waiting for that ordinance and 2 readings of it. All right, thank you very much.
Matt, would you mind receiving and placing on file the planning board's
Did I-
recommendation? I don't think it was on there.
It's not on the agenda. So we need a motion to receive and place on file the planning board
I'll
recommendation.
move that motion.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, now we'll move to our public comment portion of the meeting, open forum. This is where members of the community can speak on any topic of their choosing. We typically limit discussion to 3 minutes an item, but if I see there's a lot of people here, so we'll do our best to adhere to those numbers. I apologize for this coming later than usual in the agenda, but we did have to discuss the unanticipated fund maintenance issue with the school. So anybody want to participate in public forum? Mickey?
Good evening. We are Bill and Mickey Dickinson, owners and full-time residents of 246 Colonel John Gardner Road in Narragansett. And here are some of our neighbors to speak to you about the apparent arbitrary practices that were used in the most recent vision appraisal assessment. The residents of Bonnet Shores with an address of Colonel John Gardner Road have had land assessments raised at between 36% and 59%, with the vast majority at an even 47%. The assessments are on both sides of the road, irrespective of waterfront, water view, size, or anything. This is in a year when our council is advertising no tax increases. If all residences in the neighborhood or a town platted area were also raised by that amount, so be it. The basis being waterfront, water view, or some common land value impact. But in a review of the Bonnet neighborhood and the town, this was not the case. In fact, just one street in Bonnet Shores, Colonel John Gardner Road, was selected for this special treatment. Why? We did go to 2 separate reviews with vision appraisal representatives, and the answer to that question was that the assessment was based on 4 houses that were sold over their assessed value between 11/2013 and 12/2014. However, we have found 5 other houses in Bonnet that were sold over their assessed value during the same period with no change in assessment. We also cited at those meetings 2 adjacent properties, both on the waterfront overlooking Bonnet Beach with 2 different addresses. One is on Colonel John Gardner Road and one is on Bonnet Point Road. The Colonel John property had a land increase of 47%, while the adjacent Bonnet Point property, 50 feet away, had a 0% land increase. We can cite a dozen properties that have been raised 47%, while their immediate neighbors who have had the same Colonel John Gardner frontage, but a different street address have not been affected. The answer from Vision Appraisal was that street address does make a difference. Does this mean that in our town that any street may be picked and all homes with that street address, Ocean Road, Central Avenue, or other streets in the pier could be selected on any other assessment year? All Narragansett owners should be very wary of this kind of arbitrary policy potential. According to the general laws of Rhode Island, the assessor is required to ensure that all assessments are fair and equitable. It's the responsibility of the assessor to determine the extent to which assessed value of one piece of property varies from others in the same assessment district. The practice of assigning a land assessment increase on the basis of street address is not fair nor equitable and is perhaps illegal. We understand that the town needs to raise money to cover past, present, and future expenses. Of course you do. And we are willing to pay our fair share. You should be aware that homeowners along Colonel John Gardner are considering a number of options to pursue. To begin, we invite you, members of the council, the South County Independent, the Narragansett Times, and any Narragansett resident to join us in a review of this assessment inequity. Join us at the Bonnet Shores Community Center on 130 Bonnet Shores Road on this Wednesday, 2 days away, May 20th at 9 a.m. in the morning for an overview of the assessments and a walk around to actually see this egregious situation. We ask every one of you to join us and see for yourselves. Thank you very much.
I would love to go, but
Thank you, Mickey.
maybe I could go later in the day. Because I work on Wednesday, but I'd love to go later in the day if somebody would be able to take me.
I hope some of you will be able to make it.
I think we
Because
can make
it's
that.
wrong. It's absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you about arranging it later in the day for me, because I'd like to see it.
Excuse me,
Yes.
so, did you continue with the appeal process? I mean, did you bring it to the next level?
Yes.
And everybody else has as well?
We don't know. No. Just vision appraisal.
Right.
That's all we can do is vision appraisal.
Right, at this point, right. And then, did you get an appraisal? Did you get a professional
A
appraiser
private
down there?
appraisal?
Because if you bring it to the committee, they're gonna wanna see an appraisal based on this,
I did for our personal property
Right.
in January.
okay,
I did that. We're arguing the process.
We're saying the method is wrong.
right.
It's not fair, it's not equitable.
We're not specifically talking about our house, which is bad, but the method that was used is totally wrong.
So we need to get a little more information on that,
Right.
Mickey, I think. And I think what I had suggested was for the whole council, a work session with the tax assessor and perhaps with vision appraisal. We're talking about putting on a special council meeting in about a week where I could then schedule that work session. Obviously, I can get in touch with you what night that would be, where we could start to get to the bottom of it, because I was given a list of all the properties that have been appraised across from all the way to Little Beach, all the way down Colonel John Gardner. So I think, Pam, that's what I'm thinking of doing, so I'll put that item on at our next meeting to have that work session with the tax assessor and with vision appraisal, so we get a little more detail, because honestly, I didn't have that level of detail, and I know you've done research on it, but, and I know there's other people here who want to talk to it, but at least then we can start to have that conversation. Pam, does that sound like something we could do? All
I
right.
think that sounds like a good idea. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to bring the people together, because it looks like the room is full, and my assumption is a lot of them have the same issue that you're having.
No, it's a huge spike, and there's a concern of, I mean, we've got to get to that. We've got to at least get the justification for it, and maybe challenge it on a larger level than the individual appeal by appeal. So, great, thank you. Ted?
Thank you, Matt. Thank you all. I'm Ted DiStefano. We live at 90, my wife Kathy and I live at 94 Colonel John Gardner Road in Bonnet. Colonel John Gardner Road has been hit hard with a disproportionate tax increase in order to support major new spending, from what I read, $2.25 of the town. Specifically, one street has had assessed valuations, imagine, increased from almost 40% to almost 60%. This while keeping the the mill rate the same. That's horrible. That means if your assessed valuation by vision appraisal goes up 40%, that means you have a tax increase of 40%. It flows right through to your tax bill. What deeply rankles me about this are the comments from the town government, and I'll read a few. This is the Independent quoting a councilman. We were able to meet the budget while keeping taxes down. Taxes have not been kept down. If you're spending, from what I read, $2.25 million more in taxes, in revenue, right, in money, then it has to come from somewhere, from taxes. So you've raised taxes substantially, in my opinion, and specifically to the residents of Colonel John Gardner Road. Another disturbing comment that came from the town, we kept the mill rate the same. Well, I already explained that. That's horrible. If you keep the mill rate the same and your assessed valuation goes up 60%, and it has on Colonel John Gardner Road, almost 60%, that means this probably is the highest in Rhode Island's history. This taxpayer gets a 60% increase in their property taxes. I don't think this has ever happened in the state of Rhode Island before. So I hate to hear things like we kept the mill rate low or we kept taxes low. They're just not true. No one's being fooled by this. Finally, and this is the one I particularly love, a town official said that upping the assessment increases the value of our properties. Wonderful. So I'd love my property to be assessed at 1,000% more, 10 times more. It will be worth miraculously 10 times more. And I'd love to see an academic study, peer review, that shows upping our assessed valuations really helps us out. But more importantly, My family and I have been living there for over 40 years on Colonel John Gardner Road. We're not looking at our home as an investment. It's not even a house, it's our home. We're not looking to flip property. Many houses in Bonnet have been in the same family for generations. Councilman Patrick Murray, who I've never met, it's one of you, I know it's not.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Guilty.
This is a compliment, sir. Honestly and bravely addressed this situation by saying the following, as quoted in the Narragansett Times. Town Manager Pam Nolan and Finance Director Laura Kenyon may have advertised a budget with no tax increases. Not true. That part is not true, but it's a quote. But he, Councilman Murray, considered increased valuations with no corresponding increase in the tax rate as a de facto tax increase. It's as simple as that. My thoughts precisely.
Correct.
Compliments. And
Yeah,
thank you.
taxes went up 2.85%. And obviously, it's all on Colonel John Gardner Road. So,
I'm sorry, what went up point?
I said the taxes for all properties went up, the levy, went up 2.85%.
Well, my neighbors and I are carrying that.
Correct. I think it's all on John Gardner
It's
Road.
terrible. It's
Did it,
horrible.
I have a question. Did anybody on John Gardner Road go down?
No, God.
Not one person.
It went up from about 40% to 60%.
Right.
Before that was the pier.
Right.
And I just
whacked.
want to make a comment about my experience with vision appraisal. It wasn't good. I had 2 hearings, as did Bill Dickinson, these
Right.
informal hearings. And I presented data to comparables, et cetera, to show why they were wrong and about my 40% increase in assessment. The young man with whom I spoke didn't seem to understand data. He didn't even want to look at it. He kept saying to me, but you, I swear this is true, you live on Colonel John Gardner Road.
Right.
I said, I know where I live. And this is true, it's unbelievable.
Right.
And so I said, would you please look at this data that I'm trying to explain why you people were way off?
Right.
And he kept repeating, you live on Colonel John Gardner Road.
Right.
Now, tonight, I'm driving home with my wife. I'm driving. I'll find my home. I know where I live. And I
Right.
kept telling him this. Then, this is what really offended me. He offensively told me that he knew it was my second reevaluation by them, second interview. He said, come back for a 3rd time. 3 times might be a charm. That's what he
Nice.
told me. Isn't that wonderful to tell a taxpayer who's paying him?
Right.
Wonderful.
That's why we need the work session,
Yeah.
Pam.
Maybe we should
Yeah.
change the name of the road. Sounds like.
Yes, that would be good. So,
Change it, right? Maybe you guys can come up with an idea of the name of the,
I'll take a different. Anyway, I'll
get you under the wire there, you know? Smith Boulevard or something.
yeah, name it anything. Vision appraisal, and I won't be much long, honestly. Vision appraisal increased valuations from 40 to 60% on Colonel John Gardner Road. In my opinion, this can mean one of 2 things. Last year, they were off, because I go on the internet, I can see the values. They were off 40 to 60% because they jumped them up this year.
Right.
That could mean, so this could mean one thing, they were off 40 to 60%. Or there has been a land rush in Bonnet, and people are lining up during the last 12 months
Right.
to buy our property.
Right.
We haven't seen a land rush. So my feeling, 1 or 2, is 1, they're totally incompetent. And it's just staying with vision for one more second. It's ironic that we're paying these people to come to our town hall here
Right.
to have these informal meetings.
It's the lowest bid. It's the lowest bid.
It's a low, well,
It's a
it must
low
be
bid.
the lowest bill. And they're arrogant with us as though we
Right.
were supplicants. We're not
Right.
begging. They're working for us. At least be polite and at least have some basic conception of values. This young man I spoke to didn't have a clue. The fair way, in my opinion, fairer way would be to increase the mill rate uniformly. We all get hit with the same increase in mill rate.
Right.
It would have been fairer to the taxpayers and a more transparent way to handle a situation, instead of saying we kept the mill rate low or the same. Finally and sadly, my neighbors and I are scurrying to hire attorneys. I hired one, I don't know about my neighbors, to defend us against our town, the town that we support, to whom we pay taxes. That's astoundingly ironic and unfair. So I would ask you to hold off in adopting the budget and look at the mill rate, look at it fairly. Increase the mill rate a little bit. That should make up what you want to spend, instead of hitting us residents who live on the infamous Colonel John Gardner Road.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anita.
Anita's fault.
I'm not sure I can, my name is Anita Langer. I also live on Bonnet Shore, in Bonnet Shores. I live on Colonel John Gardner. I'm not sure I can be as eloquent as my neighbor who preceded me, but I'm going to take it a little different tact. I'm a realtor in town, so obviously when I went into vision appraisals, I had all my data. And again, I'm not sure they understood what the data was. I explained, because I do a lot of sales in Bonnet, what they had based some of what I thought their increases on, but I tried to explain it to them, and it seemed like it kind of did not compute with them. So they have some difficulty in understanding what the process is. And I think what we're all saying is it's the process that we're against here. If it was fairly distributed in Narragansett, or even in Bonnet Shores, if you wanted to target Bonnet Shores, it would have made sense. There's no rhyme or reason other than the name Colonel John Gardner Road. I'm going to give you a for instance. I just did a little calculations today, and there's another street. I'm not going to say the name of the street because I don't want to hurt my neighbors on that particular street. But it's as desirable, if not more desirable. It's closer to the water. It's also ocean front and ocean view. There are 21 properties. Of those 21 properties, 5 stayed the same, 4 went down, $70,000 to $100,000. 11 went up, less than $10,000. So where's the equity in terms of Colonel John Gardner, where everybody went up and everybody got hit with a good whack?
Right.
And I'm talking $200,000 and $300,000 in assessed value. That computes to a tremendous increase in our taxes. I, for one, I have a home. I love my home. I don't want to leave. But I cannot absorb a $2,500 increase this year. And that's what it will compute to if the mill rate stays the same. So I implore you to please look at what happened here.
Anita, as you know, I was on the tax review board for many years, and I can't attest for the quality of the vision appraisals employees, okay? But once you get to the committee, the town's committee, it's a 3-panel, it's Shields, Robenheimer, and Ashambo on there, all with heavy real estate, local experience, and they'll see right through this. And at that point, if you don't get satisfaction, then you can bring it to the next level, which is Superior Court. So I wouldn't go lawyering up. I'd go find an appraiser. And they're going to do an appraisal in the last 6 months on sales in your neighborhood of last year. And that's what you got to base it on.
But,
I wouldn't lawyer up
but
quite yet.
I brought up the other street because it wasn't equitable. Even if you did appraisals, it's still not equitable.
Right.
But let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Isn't that like a $200 or $300 bill for these people to do the appraisal?
Appraisal could run you as much as $400, right?
I know that we
Sure.
shouldn't let it.
Oh, I know.
I mean, this shouldn't go that
Well,
far.
that's why
They
we
shouldn't have
want to do the work to really drill
How
down
soon
on
can we
this
do that?
issue.
In the
because
past,
we
we've
need
had
to.
these work sessions after a major appraisal like this, because I see what's happening in Bonnet Shores, especially your road. I've seen it happen in the past years gone by. I remember there was an outrageous sale on Ocean Road, and they ended up knocking the house down just using the lot. But it was it sold for so much money, it spiked everyone up. And everybody in Ocean Road got whacked. It's almost like this injustice sort of comes around and lands on someone. Next it was the pier. And like, why did our values go up so much in the pier? We were told that, well, it's the pier. Well, so what? I haven't done anything to my house, it's not worth any more. But it's the pier. And we've had these sessions with Vision Appraisal. We've tried to, get down to why are these, every time one section of town gets hit very hard, and the other ones, they go down. Right. And this stuff drives us crazy because we're trying to get rid of the spikes, try and smooth the curve out. And it was very difficult. I think they spent actually months at that point making adjustments to some of these properties and saying, well, gee, maybe we did make a mistake over here. This is generally too high, we have to adjust this down. And this is probably generally too low, we'll adjust this up. In other words, it can be done.
Right.
And we will have that workshop. And this is really, I've heard a lot of this, and I've had it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For
No
listening to
problem.
us, and I hope something can be done.
Great. Thank you. Again, so we're going to schedule that workshop, and if people have anything additional to that, Brian, you can come forward, but to that. But I want, I know this is a problem down at Bonnet, and we're going to at least get this. I don't want to wait till the review process. I want to have a more detailed conversation with Vision Appraisal and with our tax assessor. So,
Well, you people know me already. I was here about a month ago. I was the only one here. I'm glad my neighbors are here tonight. First of all, we should not have to get an appraisal. I'm not getting one.
Right.
We're not spending the money.
Sure.
We're spending enough now.
Sure. I'm just telling you what.
I think that this appraisal should be held in abeyance, should not be, go ahead with it. We should not have to pay another nickel until something is done to reevaluate the place.
Right.
This is ridiculous. Mine's gone up $218,000, and I didn't even count my cabana at the beach. That went up $25,000.
Right.
So mine's going up almost $240,000. Now, I'm like Anita. I don't know if I can afford it. It's ridiculous. My neighbor on my left and on my right, their houses both went up over $200,000. We got the same view. It's an empty lot. That's not permanent. That lot's gonna be built on, because there's not that many empty lots in Bonnet. They're gonna go.
So, Brian, I just want to ask Dawson something. I mean, everybody seems very unsettled. We're going to plan a workshop. I mean, what do we do until we settle this as far as, the people's
I
payments?
don't think you should go ahead with this.
I know, Brian, I'm going to ask Dawson as the solicitor, see what he thinks.
And I'm not, no, let me finish. I'm not happy that we have a tax assessor who's part-time, getting $57,000 a year. And we should have our own tax assessor who we can go in and see any day of the week. This guy's here 3 days a week. I know he doesn't get benefits because he gets it from the job he had for 30 years. That's where he gets his benefits. That part I don't care about. I care about the money he's making, $57,000, and he's a contractor. He doesn't care about the people. Not in Narragansett. He don't even live here. And I got one other question. Does the town manager live in Narragansett? Yes. Does she own in Narragansett?
that I don't know.
She rents?
No, she rents.
I have no idea.
She rents.
That answers another question. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Dawson, can you maybe speak to what I asked? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it just seems like so many people are unhappy and they're in the middle of those assessments. I mean, is there anything legally at this point?
Well, just the last comment.
I'm asking the town solicitor.
But just a comment on the last comment about the town manager not owning property in Narragansett. to be quite frank with you, with our history of going through town managers, I would
Good
not
point.
own in Narragansett until I hit that 5-year mark.
Chris, I agree with you. Go ahead, Dawson.
Right. Thank you, Councilwoman. The question of putting the budget on hold till we resolve the complaints about the vision appraisal, I don't think that is a feasible option. As Councilman Murray has indicated, there is a robust appeals process, both at the town level and then to the Superior Court. You also, at the town administration, has the direct line of communication to vision appraisal.
Right.
So to the extent that the town, wants to intervene and bring this issue to the fore with vision appraisal, that's appropriate. But it is very concerning to put the whole process on hold, mostly because of how long it will take. We have to get a budget approved before the fiscal year begins.
Okay, so we can do some of it, we just can't postpone the
I'm
budget.
sure there's
but-
something can be worked out through the,
Yeah.
work session.
We're gonna have to be aggressive in that work session.
Yeah.
Don?
Good evening. My name is Don Bellinger, and like the others, I live on Colonel John Gardner.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I really can't accept your comment about getting an appraiser, because if I were to get an appraiser to appraise the properties on Dunes Road that are identical to Colonel John, okay, that would disprove and enforce our concerns, okay? But on the other note, about 4 or 5 years ago, I think the appraiser's name was John something. Nice
Jamaica.
gentleman.
Was it
Yeah,
Jamaica?
okay. And I asked him to explain the assessment on my property. And what he said it in this way was that land in Narragansett is all pretty much worth the same. But if you have, and we appraise it that way, then what we do is, if you have water view, true water view, not at high tide, not when the leaves fall off, if you have true water view, we multiply that land assessment by 400%. And if you're waterfront, we multiply it by 500%. And that's been the way it's been. So my property, being waterfront, gets a 500% penalty, okay? But I've always accepted that until this recent reassessment, because my taxes are going to go up $4,000. I'm going to pay over $17,000 to this town, okay? In just a single click, all right? $17,000.
Right.
What do you think that does if I wanted to sell my house to the people that have to get a mortgage, never mind to pay the house price? Our insurance is extremely expensive because of the wind deductibles and everything, and even if we can get insurance, okay? Now we have we just reduced the population going to buy a house, going to pay a $17,000 a year tax bill.
Understood.
This is a serious injustice, and it's specific on Colonel John. And as they invited you to this, Mickey Dickinson invited you, someone has to show up to see the irregularities. I sold a house 800 feet away 2 years ago for $427,000. Their taxes stay the same. The assessment stayed the same, okay? And it was much lower than what they paid for it. So there are a significant amount of discrepancies. And I think these few people that have talked prior to me have been very reserved, okay? And I think when you see the statistics, it will prove a very significant injustice is about to happen. And there was one comment that said they're getting their lawyers ready. And I don't think you want that, but because that's kind of another complication, okay? But when you open up and you look black and white on these numbers, your minds will be blown away.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll schedule that work session, and I will inform Don and Brian, Anita, and others, and you also know how to get in touch with me as well. So, Stan.
One more thing. Yeah, for the record, when I mentioned appraisal, you need to get an appraisal when you go to the 3-committee town meeting. I'm just explaining the process, okay? That's what's required during the process. Certainly, there's a collective problem down there on Colonel John Gardner. Said the magic road word. Sounds like vision appraisal needs to be taken to the woodshed.
Stan.
I'm glad I don't live on Colonel John.
Stanley, you want to move?
So you can't talk today.
Stanley's interested in
I
buying.
said, but yeah, I'm trying to help those and others that have a similar problem. As I'm just going to make a little note about the budget here. I looked at the budget, and it looks like a $2.3 million increase. You know, can't say we're not. You know, $2.3 million are going to be collected more than last year.
Right.
And what bothers me a little bit on that is because if I read right, these fund balance, I thought those were fund balances were extra money, not programmed to be spent anyway, I thought. And when I look at fund balance, the town has a fund balance, let's say, of $997,000. School has a 1.9. Let's say we have a balance, extra money, of $2.8 million. That's what this document, I know it's going to change somewhat. Something's going to happen now, whatever's going to happen. But on the first document, we've got 2.8 extra money. And the fellow just mentioned here before, our poverty rate is going up.
Right.
Our poverty rate is going up here, and we're storing $2.8 million. You know, it just seems like if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have to have any increase in, because their increase was only programmed at 2.3, and we got a slush fund of 2.8. That means we should have no increase in taxes at all. Understand? That's what your document is saying. And you know, when you have this extra money, you end up finding some place to spend. I said it a million times, and I'll continue to say that. I don't believe the town has the right to take our money and put it in a slush fund. You take it for what you need, but you don't take extra money. And if we need to have, maybe if we need some, we need a contingency fund of something. Well, how about a line of credit? You know, I go to a line of credit. I go to the bank and I get a line of credit to cover me in case I'm in a jam. Maybe the town can figure out that they can have maybe a $1 or $2 million line of credit for them to carry to the next budget session instead of a surplus. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. In terms of the budget, Laura, just what we need, the budget is 1.4 million over last year that was required from the taxpayers, right? Just to clarify that number. Anybody else? All right, that concludes the public comment portion of our meeting.
One more.
Brian. Come to the microphone, Brian. Yeah, you get it? Yeah, good.
That 900 or $1 million that you have left over from the budget that was done wrong or whatever, I think at least half of that should go back to the taxpayers.
Right.
Not put into some fund that we can use here, there, and everywhere. At least half, at least 500,000 should go back to us to help us with our tax increases.
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so anybody else for public comment? Larry.
Good evening, Larry Pardes. I live on Colonel John. So I'm not politically involved at all, and I usually don't get involved in my town or the politics or the finances. I'm happy with everything, but this was kind of upsetting, so it gave me a chance to look at our budget. I'm shocked at how many people we have in this town that are earning over $100,000.
That's right.
And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you're talking about raising my taxes 40%, and we have budgets and we want to go through name by name of where we're spending this money? I think it's ridiculous. I think somebody needs to not only review the assessments that we have on Colonel John, but the overall process in general. Thank you.
No, that'd be a separate sheet.
Anyone else? All right, well, that concludes our public comment. Thank you, everybody. As I said, we will work on that work session scheduling, get the information to you. That will be scheduled the night of next Tuesday. We'll schedule it that night, but we don't have a date yet for the actual work session. Our consent agenda, there's a request to remove item number 1 from the consent agenda. Is there a request for any other removal of items? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda absent item number 1?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Consent agenda item number 1, a motion to approve the waiver of interest for taxpayers in accordance with ordinance 2010-936.
Yeah,
Someone to
Gotta
move
move
it?
it.
Can someone move it?
I pulled the motion. He's going to move it before we can discuss it.
I pulled it.
Oh, I did too.
Okay.
So we both pulled it.
Can somebody
So
move it?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second. All right, discussion.
So here's what I just wanted to say one thing, Chris, about it. In 2010.
Wait a minute, Susan, let the people.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In 2010, we created an ordinance to waive the interest penalties for the taxpayer. And that's a list of these people tonight, right? And in pulling that, it just made me think about, I got a phone call yesterday from a man, and he is a property owner, and I was wondering, why didn't we extend that ordinance to waive for the property owner as well? So.
Because he's a non-resident.
Yeah, so a non-resident, but he's a property owner, so
Correct.
I pulled it just because, Dawson, it made me think about the penalties that we're giving to people, and maybe we could look at that ordinance. I agree with these people, but I also feel badly for the guy. I think he
Sure.
called you, Patrick, as well. And his circumstances are incredibly sad and challenging, but he also owns property. He doesn't live here, he doesn't reside here, but he is a property owner that had some hardship, and so I think that we need to look at that as an ordinance for the people that are not just residents, but property owners as well.
When I, actually after the election, I went and I saw the town manager and I had my little list initially, and this was on it. And I received that phone call. I spoke with the gentleman as well. Basically, we have an ordinance from 2010 that gave the town permission to forgive any interest or penalties that might be incurred upon the taxpayer if he's a little late on his tax payment. If you have a 5-year record of being right on time without a problem, this one time you're forgiven, usually it's about $50, $100, up to a maximum
Up to 500.
of 500. But the way the ordinance is written, the way it reads, it's for taxpayers who are residents of the town. And what I would say, if you could be so kind, is to put a proposed ordinance change on for the next meeting, so it will read taxpayers, and just strike out who are residents of the town. Because I think it's, I don't know if it's, you say, I guess it is discriminatory, but I think it's just unfair. So if you're paying taxes here, no matter if you're a resident or not, you will also be eligible for relief of your penalties and your fines if you happen to be a little late after 5 years of a clean record.
Yeah, so that's same thing, but I was also going to ask the council of that particular situation, is there any opportunity to kind of take a look at that for that particular man that was a property owner but not, I know the ordinance doesn't pertain to that, but I'd like to, due to the situation, would like the council to consider waiving that for the $120.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I
It's a
think
legal
that's a great
question.
call, so.
Yeah, I'm just asking off the record if you guys agree
It's
with
not
that.
a problem with anybody here, I don't think. but-
Kind of off the
We're going
record.
off the record.
Yeah, we're going off the record.
But it's a legal question for
Yeah.
Dawson.
Councilwoman, your pending question now is whether we can amend the ordinance to...
No, to Chris's point, I'd like you to look at an ordinance that includes the
course.
property owners, and I'm asking for consideration for this particular situation, and that can be off the record.
Very well.
I think they know the situation I'm speaking to.
Yeah, what we're going to do is for next meeting, we're going to amend the ordinance, or propose to amend the ordinance, just to strike the 3 words, "who are residents," and that should do it. I think what Susan's interested in, what can we do for this man who's been paying his taxes on time for a lot of years? Basically, his son had a stroke, a massive stroke, 3 children, life went into a tailspin, and he was a little bit late.
You're right, and if there's agreement, that's all I'm
Is there anything
saying.
we could do to help him out legally?
Can we put
under
it
the
on the
ordinance?
blue sheet for next meeting and just be an up and down vote for that one waiver for that guy?
If, I'd be happy to investigate this in more detail.
Why don't we have one of you meet with Dawson to go over the details of the situation? I'm not aware of them.
I'll be happy to.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, so I just pulled it for that discussion, so I'm good with number 1.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 9, it's my understanding that Jeff Cesarine requested for that to be withdrawn and put on the June 1st agenda. Okay, so item number 9 do we need a motion to continue that, or are we going to withdraw that? Motion to continue the item number 9, a motion to approve the recommendations of the Sewer Policy Committee relative to the granting of waivers for Plat NS, Lot 631, 175 Bonnet Point Road, Bonnet Shores Beach Club. Is there a motion to continue this to June 1st?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 10, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the emergency repairs of the road surface and drainage on Jamestown Boulevard completed by George Sherman Sand and Gravel Company Incorporated in the amount of $12,081.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Another sinkhole. Great read.
And then a global warming?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 11, a motion to adopt an ordinance in amendment of Section 26.21, installation of tanks for combustibles of Article 2, Fire Code and Regulations.
Move the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
It's the second reading. This kills this ordinance. It's redundant.
Was this the ordinance regarding
Correct.
that we voted on before the election on Cumberland Farms?
Correct.
And it was an antiquated.
Oh, yeah, but
Okay.
That was your segue out of it.
I just wanted to make sure.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion approved, 4-1. Item number 12, a motion to award the bid for auditing services and agreed-upon procedures to Bacon and Company LLC in the amount of $46,000 for fiscal year 2015-2016, $46,250 for fiscal years 2016-2017, and $46,500 for fiscal year 2017-2018, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract for the services upon approval from the state of Rhode Island.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
The only question
Anyone have any questions for Laura?
I just have one question,
ahead.
Laura. Were all of the bids all-inclusive? I see. That was the only question.
That's why the spread.
No, not all the quotes were all-inclusive. Bacon was an all-inclusive price.
Thank you. I'm good.
Further discussion on that?
I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 13, a motion to schedule a special town council meeting on May 26,
We did that.
2015 at 7:30 PM.
Are we going to vote that down?
No, we're going
Oh,
to keep it on.
oh, I'll move the motion.
Second.
And the rationale for this is it still gives us 3 opportunities for readings of the budget. We also have some items now we're putting on the scheduling of the work session, so this should be a relatively short meeting.
But we also will have the work session with the school committee prior to, so at 6 p.m. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Okay, so just to recap, we will have a work session with the school committee on the $922,000 at 6 p.m. on May 26th.
Tuesday.
Special town council meeting, May 26th, following that at 7:30 p.m. Item number 14 we've dealt with, and we have a motion to retire to executive session after the May 18th, 2015 Town Council meeting as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 to discuss litigation regarding Stephen Story versus the Town of Narragansett, and as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A2, and collective bargaining as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A2, and appoint Dawson T. Hodgson, Town Solicitor, as Clerk Pro Tem. Mr. Wilkins.
Aye.
Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Mr. Mannix, aye. Ms. Manano.
Aye.
Mr. Rinaldi.
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you, everyone.